जय गोपीजन वल्लभा गिरिवरदारी यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यमुनतीरा वनचारि यमुनतीरा वनचारि जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय गोपीजन वल्लभा गिरिवरदारी जय गोपीजन वल्लभा गिरिवरदारी यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यमुनतीरा वनचारि यमुनतीरा वनचारि जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा श्रील प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा श्रील प्रभुपदा जय ओम विश्वपाद परमहंस प्रभु सदस्य श्रीमती स्वयं श्री भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। इसका संस्थापक शील प्रभुपाद की जय। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस प्रत्यक्ष सदस्य श्रीमद भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद की जय। जय ओम विष्णुपाद श्री अद्भुत किशोरदास महाराज की जय। जय ओम विष्णुपाद सच्चिदानंद श्री भक्ति ठाकुर की जय। जय ओम विष्णुपाद वैष्णव सात्मक जगन्नाथ दास महाराज की जय। जय श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भट्टदास रघुनाथ प्रभु की जय। नामाचार्य श्रीदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से गो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोपिका श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। श्री श्री गौरांगी बैंगलोरेश्वर भगवान की जय। श्री मायापुर धाम की जय। श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय। गंगामयी की जय। यमुनामयी की जय। भक्ति देवी की जय। तुलसी देवी की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव की जय। श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद भागवतम की जय। इसको वर्तमान गुरु अंत की जय। समाज भक्ति की जय। बोल प्रेम हरि हरि। All glories to the Assembly. All glories to the Assembly. All glories to the Assembly. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gaurang. All glories to Sri Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam. Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayamudire. अष्टप्रायेषु अपत्रेषु नित्यं भागवतसेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकीम्. Hare Krishna, welcome you to all to the Friday morning Srimad Bhagavatam class. Today we are discussing from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 8, Text 23. Nanyam tata padma palasya lochana dukkachidam te mrgayami kanchana yo mrgayate hastaghrihita padmaya श्रीयेतरैर् अङ्गविमृग्य मनया नन्यं ततपद्मपलसविनोद पलसलोचन दुःखच्चिदं त्रिमृगयामि कञ्चन यो मृगयते हस्तगृहीतपद्मया श्रियेतरैर् अङ्गविमृग्य मनया नन्यं ततपद्मपलसलोचन दुःखच्चिदं ते मृगयामि कञ्चन यो मृगयते हस्तगृहीतपद्मय श्रियेतरेरङ्गविमनया. Translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. My dear Dhruva, as far as I am concerned, I do not find anyone who can mitigate your distress but the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose eyes are like lotus petals. Many demigods, such as Brahma, Lord Brahma, seek the pleasure of the goddess of fortune, but the goddess of fortune herself, with a lotus flower in her hand, is always ready to render service to the Supreme Lord. Purport Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Suniti pointed out herewith that the benediction received from the Supreme Personality of Godhead and that received from the demigods are not on an equal level. Foolish persons say that no matter whom one worships, one will get the same result, but especially that is not a fact. But actually, that is not a fact. In Bhagavad Gita, it is also said that benedictions received from the demigods are all temporary and are meant for sorry, the less intelligent. In other words, because the demigods are all materialistically conditioned souls, although they are situated in very exalted position, their benedictions cannot be permanent. Permanent benediction is spiritual benediction, since the spirit soul is eternal. It is also said in Bhagavad Gita that only such persons who have lost their intelligence go to worship the demigods. Therefore, Suniti told her son, that he should not seek the mercy of the demigods, but should directly approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead to mitigate his misery. Material opulences are controlled by the Supreme Personality of Godhead through his different potencies, and specifically the Goddess of Fortune. Therefore, those who are after material opulences seek the pleasure or mercy of the Goddess of Fortune. Even the highly placed demigods worship the Goddess of Fortune. But the Goddess of Fortune, Mahalakshmi herself, is always seeking the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Anyone, therefore, who takes to the worship of the Supreme Lord automatically receives the blessings of the Goddess of Fortune. At this stage of his life, Dhruva Maharaj was seeking material opulences, and his mother advised rightly that even for material opulences, it is better to worship not the demigods but the Supreme Lord. Although a pure devotee does not seek benedictions from the Supreme Lord for material advancement, it is stated in Bhagavad Gita that pious persons go to the Lord even for material benedictions. A person who goes to a Supreme Personality of Godhead for material gain is gradually purified in association with the Supreme Lord. Thus, he becomes free from all material desires and is elevated to the platform of spiritual life. Unless one is raised to the spiritual platform, it is not possible for him to completely transcend all material contamination. Suniti, the mother of Dhruva, was a far-seeing woman, and therefore she advised her son to worship the Supreme Lord and no one else. The Lord is described here in as lotus-eyed Padma Palasalochana. When a person is fatigued, if he sees a lotus flower, all his fatigue can be immediately reduced to nil. Similarly, when an aggrieved person sees the lotus face of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, immediately all his grief is reduced. A lotus flower is also an insignia in the hand of Lord Vishnu, as well as in the hand of the goddess of fortune. The worshippers of the goddess of fortune and Lord Vishnu together are certainly very opulent in all aspects, even in material life. The Lord is sometimes described as Shiva Varinchi Nutam, which means that Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma also offer their respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana. ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवां च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान सहगण ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधाकांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी शुभानुस्ते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये पंचकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे मोहम करो देवाचलम श्री गुरु देवता परमात्म श्री चैतन्य ईश्वर Hare Krishna. So here we see in this verse, Mother Suniti, she is advising Dhruva Maharaj because Dhruva Maharaj was not permitted to sit in the lap of his father because his stepson was sitting. So Dhruva Maharaj was very upset, and his mother Suniti advised Dhruva Maharaj as he was despondent to go to the forest and meditate on the Supreme Lord Krishna. So here in this verse, she says that, my dear Dhruva, as far as I'm concerned, I do not find anyone who can mitigate your distress but the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now you see that this is Dhruva Maharaj is a small child. A small child has got a lot of affection for his father. And when he is deprived of that privilege of sitting in his father's lap, any child would get upset. So Dhruva Maharaj was also upset. So when he came and reported this to his mother advised that you please go to look for the shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. And no one else can give him that shelter. No one can mitigate your distress. This Supreme Personality of Godhead, his eyes are like lotus petals, and many demigods such as Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, the goddess of fortune, everyone is always ready to render service to the Supreme Lord. So the demigods, the point is that even the demigods uh, are conditioned souls like us, but they are on an elevated platform. When I say on an elevated platform, they are the different planetary systems. Each and every demigod is in charge of various aspects of this material world. Someone, Agni is in charge of fire, Vayu in charge of air, Indra in charge of rain, and similarly, every demigod is in charge of every aspect of this material world. It is said that there are 33 crore demigods beyond our imagination, and they all seek shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they also seek shelter. They all like We see many times, even this material world, people uh, do a lot of puja for Lakshmi Devi on Lakshmi Puja day. Uh, the motive behind that puja that they do is that they seek mercy of the goddess of fortune. And here in this purport, it is also mentioned that even the goddess of demigods seek mercy of the goddess of fortune, and the goddess of fortune seeks shelter in Krishna. So, Mother Suniti is advising that Dhruva Maharaj should seek shelter from the Supreme Personality of Godhead to mitigate his distress. Uh, it is There is a quote in Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, wherein it is mentioned that actually material world is nothing but creation of distress only. There are dualities in this play, in this material world, but however, if we see, uh, one will observe that there is no happiness in this material world. Absence of distress is what is generally termed as happiness. But if you look at it in reality, there is no happiness because it's all temporary in nature. That is what mentioned this purport also. There is no permanent benediction that anyone can give to anyone in this material. No demigod can give to anyone in this material world. So it is said that in Srimad Bhagavatam that one who takes shelter of the Supreme Lord Mukunda, his miseries are reduced to the extent of water contained in the footprint of a calf. You know, a calf is very, very small. And when we walk on the road, we might not even observe it. So, in that footprint, how much of water can be there? So, when one takes shelter of Mukunda, the one who gives liberation to the conditioned souls, uh, his miseries are reduced to the extent of a level of the quantity of water that is contained in the footprint of a calf. Now, another important point is that all the parts of Krishna's body are compared to the lotus fruit is considered to be the best of flowers in terms of its beauty and so forth. So similarly, the various parts of the Lord's body are compared to be lotus flower. There is also a mention about Lakshmi Devi here in this verse, which is very important. Generally, actually, if you see, there are many, many Lakshmis who are all serving the Supreme Lord Krishna, and that is mentioned by Brahma in Brahma's prayer, Brahma Samhita, where it is said, Lakshmi Sahasrada Sambrama Sevyamanam, Chintamani Prakara Satma Skudu Kalpa Vriksha, Lakshavriteshu Surabhirapi Palayantam, Lakshmi Sahasrada Sambrama Sevyamanam, Govindamadi Purusham, Tamaham Bhajami. This is how Lord Brahma is praying. That means thousands and thousands of lakhs and lakhs of Lakshmis who are serving the Supreme Lord Krishna. But in this particular verse, the reference is to given to Mahalakshmi, the supreme of all, who is also seeking the shelter of the Supreme Lord Krishna. Narayana, uh, Lakshmi Devi actually worships Lord Krishna in the form of Narayana, and she worships him in a mood of awe and reverence, not with that love of Krishna. So the point is that she is also seeking shelter of the Supreme Lord. Now, there is also a mention that she can bestow all the opulences to any conditioned soul. And now, here, uh, the goddess of fortune is actually situated in the chest of Narayana and is herself busy in serving Narayana. So people worship Lakshmi Devi, but generally they don't worship Lord Vishnu. So they worship Lakshmi Devi alone. But Vishnu is worship of Lakshmi Devi with Vishnu is more significant than worshipping Lakshmi herself. It is mentioned by our acharyas that when one worships Lakshmi Devi alone, it is like a Ravana mentality. Ravana wanted Lakshmi, but he did not want Rama. So finally, he was killed by Rama. So anyone who worships Lakshmi Devi alone without Narayana or Narsimha, They are all having a Ravana mentality, and they are bound to be killed by the Lord Himself at some time or the other, or the opulences being taken away from them. So this is one important point. Always Lakshmi is worshipped along with her consort, that is Narayana, Lakshmi Narayana, or Lakshmi Narasimha, or Sita Rama, or Radha Krishna. This is how they are worshipped together, and that is a perfect mode of worship. Uh, in terms of examples, Rama and Sita are perfect ideal grihastas. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was also a perfect grihastha during his time. And it is said that during his time, actually, he did not have any opulence. But during his time, they used to invite so many sadhus to their house, giving them samshir prasadam, etc. But at no point of time they felt any constraint or shortage of food in their house. This is how the Lord always set an example that a grihastha should host sadhus into their home. And when grihasthas do such duties, the house is not bereft of any of their opulences. Well, Lakshmi Devi herself takes care of such houses. Suniti pointed out also that the benediction received from the Supreme Personality of Godhead and that received from the demigods are not on an equal level. Now, foolish persons say that no matter what, whomever one worships, they will get the same result, but that is actually not the fact. Like we are conditioned souls, and we see that many times somebody may be full of opulences, and somebody may be bereft of opulences. But just like us, one who gets opulences via Lakshmi, similarly, the demigods also are many times bereft of opulences, and they seek the blessings of the goddess of fortune to get opulences. So they are also conditioned souls like us, and they also run after the goddess of fortune. And also, the material benedictions that the demigods award are also not permanent, because after all, they are all material benedictions. So Lakshmi does not necessarily give all material benedictions to all the demigods at all the time, but depending on situations like us, she gives them the material benedictions. Therefore, all these material benedictions uh, are not permanent, they are temporary in nature. So, demigods also receive this material benediction, which is a temporary nature, and are received by the mercy of Supreme Personality of God. It is not that they have a capacity of their own to award material benediction, because if they deviate from their principles of management, then the Lord at any time can intervene and take away their opulences. So they are also very, very careful. So these material benedictions are not permanent, they are temporary in nature. And similarly, Lakshmi herself does not stay in a materialistic house for a very long time. And that is why she is also known as Chanchala. Chanchala means one who does not permanently stay in a materialistic house. Also, the material benedictions are of no use for a conditioned soul. The actual permanent benediction is a spiritual benediction, because the spirit soul is eternal, the Lord is eternal, the relationship between the Lord and the living entity is eternal, and the process of reviving this relationship is also eternal, that is devotion service. Therefore, it is said in the Bhagavad Gita that those who have lost their intelligence go to worship the demigods. So, Bhagavad Gita clearly states that those who go to the demigods for material benedictions are less intelligent. So, Chuniti told her son that he should not seek the mercy of the demigods, but should directly approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead to mitigate his misery. Now, all these material aspects are controlled by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, create different potencies. Particularly, the chief among them is the goddess of fortune. So, therefore, those who are after the material opulences seek the pleasure of the goddess of fortune. Now, Mahalakshmi herself is always seeking the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, she is situated in a platform of awe and reverence, and she is also worshipped in awe and reverence, and she herself is in the platform of awe and reverence. So, uh, those who worship Lakshmi Devi temporarily for a material benediction like knowledge. There are many benedictions materially, like one might want knowledge, one might not might want wealth. Those who seek knowledge, they seek the blessings of Saraswati Devi. She's also an expansion of Lakshmi Devi. Like that, there are so many expansions. Actually, all these demigoddesses, they're all originated from Srimati Radharani in the spiritual world. Radharani expands in different forms, and in the material world, she expands in the form of so many demigods, like Lakshmi Devi, uh, Saraswati. Sometimes people may worship Saraswati Devi for getting knowledge. So they may do puja for during Saraswati puja, but after that they forget her. So they are also highly intelligent personalities. They know that who is the conditioned soul coming for what purpose. So she does not also necessarily bestow material knowledge to conditioned souls like us who come with a purpose. But worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead itself is done without any expectations. And that these material benedictions or material opulences that a conditioned soul gets is dependent upon their karma. And someone might have done a lot of good karma, but they may not deserve it. So desire should be there. And apart from desire, one should also become a person capable of deserving. Sometimes one may not deserve, but desire and deserve, these are two vital criteria for one to get all these material opulences. But nevertheless, they are all under the control of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Uh, Lakshmi herself, when someone worships Lakshmi Devi with Krishna, that is a perfect worship. And then at that time, Krishna himself personally intervenes. But nevertheless, materialist people cannot expect to touch Lakshmi Devi because she's situated on a very high platform. And as I mentioned, she's also known as Chanchala. Now, Ravana wanted Sita without Ram, and he could not even touch Sita Devi because that is a benediction she had. So though he kidnapped her, he could not touch her. Another important personality of a materialist is Daksha. Daksha means one who is controlled by sexual desire. So materialists want to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead for a material desire without God. They don't want God, but they want material benedictions from Him. In fact, the whole material world itself is created for one to struggle, for filling his belly, or one to have a roof over his head, or some shoes to walk, or uh, so many things are there. When people work very hard, struggling, then what happens is it is said that foam comes out of their mouth, which we see that many times in India. Particularly, people work as laborers, and when they work very hard, foam comes out of their mouth. Resultant what reaction? What is that? They are bound in this material world by all their actions and reactions. Finally, a point comes that they are very fearful as they reach old age, and which ends particularly in death. But human life is given with a particular goal, and that is to become free from all these material struggles and be situated eternally with the Supreme Lord. Now, Lakshmi Devi herself, as I mentioned, that she is worshipped in awe and reverence. And it is said in Srimad Bhagavatam, they mentioned Srimad Bhagavatam, that she wanted to enter the Rasa Leela pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavana, but she was not allowed to enter because she herself is worshipped with awe and reverence, and she also is in the mood of awe and reverence, whereas the gopis' love for Krishna is Gopi's relationship with Krishna is in the mood of love for Krishna, whereas she is worshipped as the supreme goddess of fortune. So that is why she was not given entry into the Rasa Leela pastimes of the Lord. So she is always situated in one of the Vaikuntha planets with Narasimha or Narayana, etc. There is a mention in Chaitanya Charitamrita about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's talks with Venkata Bhatta, who was a great devotee of the Lord and he was the father of Gopala Bhatta Goswami. That where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu mentions that one can enter Braja or Vrindavana only with the mood of gopis, not otherwise. So gopis had a natural love for Krishna, and unless and until one comes to that stage of bhakti, one initially starts with uh, bhakti in the mode of awe and reverence, and with that mode, one cannot enter Vrindavana. They can, even if they perfect their life with that mode, they can enter only one of the Vaikuntha planets. These gopis were sadness. One pastime is that Krishna had a severe headache, and at that time Narad Muni came. And when he came, he asked Krishna what was wrong. He said that I have got a severe headache, and I want you to go and bring the dust of the Brahmanas. So Narad Muni, he spoke to the Brahmanas. He said that Krishna has got a headache, and you want the dust from your feet. Many sinful reactions for giving the dust of us, and we can't do that. Then Narad Muni went back and told Krishna the same thing. And then Krishna said that you go and talk to the gopis of Braja. So Narad Muni came to the gopis of Braja and he told them the same thing, that Krishna has got a headache. So he wants the dust of your feet. And immediately the gopis said, yes, yes, yes. If Krishna has got a headache and if the only medicine is the dust from our feet, please take as much as you want. This is the mood of the Brajagopis. They have to give to Krishna. Whereas the Brahmanas, they are supposed to be great devotees of the Lord. Their mood was not in that platform. So this is an example that is there as a pastime to understand worship of Krishna and worship of the goddess of fortune and uh, so forth. So Mother Dhruva Maharaj now actually Dhruva Maharaj uh, was seeking material benediction. Now, if you see the previous slokas, Dhruva Maharaj left his father because he wanted a kingdom bigger than his father. And that was a material desire. But when Dhruva Maharaj meditated on so many tapasya austerities that Dhruva Maharaj performed during the span of his life, many months he lived sustained on fruits, many months he lived on roots, many months he lived on leaves, he lived on water, and so forth. So when he performed, many times he lived on air, breathing air. But when this type of austerity performed, the whole Earth planet came to a standstill. That is what the power of his tapasya. But the thing is, the ultimate goal for his tapasya was to seek a kingdom bigger than his father. So that is for which Mother asked him to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, pure devotees actually don't seek any material opulence from God. Now, it is not possible that one might seek worship of the Supreme Lord without any desire right from the beginning. So, Lord Himself says in Bhagavad Gita, those who desire wealth or those seek knowledge, inquiry of the absolute truth, and so forth. There are four different types of people who come to Him. So it is not that right from the beginning somebody starts straight away worshipping Krishna without any material desire. People come with a material desire, but Krishna, by his association, free devotee from these material desires so that he can become a pure devotee, seeking no further material benediction from the Supreme Lord. That is why it is stated that pure devotees do not seek benedictions for material advancement from the Supreme Lord. And uh, unless if one and until one is raised to a spiritual platform, it's not possible for him to transcend all material contamination. This is what I mentioned. As one starts practicing devotional service to the Supreme Lord, he gradually becomes purified and he transcends all the material contamination. Now, Suniti was an exceptional character. She was mother of Dhruva Maharaj, and she could foresee, being a great personality, what is the mood that Dhruva Maharaj was in. So she directed her son to worship the Supreme Lord and no one else. Another important point that is mentioned in this verse is the Lord is described as Padma Palasa Lochanat. That means when a person is fatigued, if he sees a lotus flower, all fatigue can be immediate using the distress. That is as good as zero. Similarly, when that point is that when somebody looks towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all his miseries become reduced. Another important point is that the lotus flower is also the insignia in the hand of Lord Vishnu as well as the goddess of fortune. Now, I mentioned at the beginning of the class, the Lord is never worshipped alone, but the Lord is worshipped along with the goddess of fortune. So, the goddess of so hold a lotus in her hand. So both are worshipped with their respective lotuses in the hand. The worship of the goddess of fortune and Lord Vishnu together is certainly very, very opulent in all respects, even in real life. So even in material life, both are worshipped together, as I mentioned, the decisions that are given as I mentioned, to be killed in land. I don't want to be killed in water. I don't want to be killed inside the four walls and not outside also. He said that I don't want to be killed in that Hiranyakashipu got from Lord Brahma. But then we see that later the Lord appeared as Narsingadev and he killed Hiranyakashipu. So the point is that one might try and get any material benediction from any demigods or demigoddesses, but they don't last, and invariably they are taken away. Generally, it is said that the materialistic persons who seek such material benedictions from demigods or demigoddesses are like Ravana mentality. They want material opulence, but without God. One more important point is that the Lord is sometimes described as Nutam, which means that Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma also offer their respectful obeisances under the lotus feet of the Supreme God. So that means Lord Brahma and shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana. Advaita Machyutam Anadi Manantaram Adyam Purana Purusham Navayavanam Cha Vedeshu Tav Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. It says that I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is inaccessible to the Vedas, but obtainable by pre-annular devotion of the soul, who is without a second, who is not subject to decay, is beginning without a beginning, whose form is endless, who is the beginning and the eternal Purusha in the beauty of a blooming youth. So here Brahma says, I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is inaccessible to the Vedas, access the Supreme Lord to the Vedas. He can be obtainable only by pure unalloyed devotion of the soul. As I mentioned, that soul is eternal, Lord is also eternal. And the devotional service is the only process to attain that eternal. So the Lord can be attained only by devotional service. Who is not subject to decay? The Lord is not subject to decay. He is beginning without he does not have a beginning. The Lord does not have a beginning, he does not have an end. Unlike we, the conditioned souls, we have a beginning and we also have an end. Whose form is N, he comes as Narasimha, he comes as Narayana, and so forth. He has got many, many avatars. Who is the beginning and the eternal Purusha? The Purusha means he is a supreme enjoyer and he lives eternally. And yet he is a person possessing the beauty of a blooming youth. Krishna means he is all attractive and he has got the beauty of a blooming youth. So this is one prayer that Brahma prays to the Supreme Lord. There is another prayer that is Lord Brahma recites in the same Brahma Samhita, which says, शीघ्रं यथा तदि विकार विशेष योगात् संजायते न हि ततः पृथगस्ति हेतो यशम्भुताम् अपि तथा समुपैति कार्यात् गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि. A translation is, just as milk is transformed into curd by the actions of acids, but yet the effect curd is neither the same as or not different from its cause, that is milk. I adore the supreme Lord Govinda, of whom the state of Shambhu is a transformation for the performance of the work of destruction. And the meaning is that here Brahma says that milk is transformed into curd. As you all know that we have milk which is the cause of the curd. By adding some acids into milk, it automatically becomes curd. But at the same time, milk is curd and milk is not curd. It is different. So here Brahma says, I adore that primeval Lord Govinda, of whom the state of Shambhu is a transformation for the performance of the work of destruction. That means actually Lord Shiva is also an incarnation of the Supreme Lord, but he appears in the material world for the purpose of, for the cause of destruction. As you all know, there are three Gunavataras. Lord has more millions of avatars, lakhs and millions of avatars. So the three Gunavatas avatars are Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh. The Lord appears as Brahma for the purpose of creation. He appears as Vishnu for the purpose of maintenance, and he also appears as Lord Shiva for the purpose of destruction. So the Lord is like milk, and Lord Shiva is like curd. They are one and the same, but at the same time, curd can never be milk. So Krishna is the original, and he transforms himself as Lord Shiva for the purpose of destruction. So Brahma says that I adore that venerable Lord Govinda, of whom Lord Shiva appears for the purpose of destruction. Of him is an incarnation. The point is that Brahma or Shiva, all of them, they seek the shelter of the Supreme Lord Krishna. They also, being in this material world, many times they also run into trouble. In fact, there was a one demon, I think, I forgot the name, who sought benediction from Lord Shiva. You know that Brahma already gave benediction to Hiranyakashipu and he paid a price for it. And then finally, the Lord appeared as Narasimhadev to kill Hiranyakashipu. There's a demon, I forgot his name. He appeared and he took a benediction from Lord Shiva that I want a benediction that whoever touches uh, his head and his head falls on the ground, uh, immediately he is killed. Uh, so Shiva took that benediction from Lord Shiva. That demon took like benediction from Lord Shiva, and finally, the demon came and asked Lord Shiva himself to touch his head with his fingers. And if Shiva would have done, then Lord Shiva's life would have been in danger. But the Supreme Lord appeared and told this demon that why don't you try this on your own self before asking somebody else to do that? So the demon, as you know, demons are generally foolish by nature. He did not think about it. He put his own fingers on his head, and finally the demon's life was over. He was killed. So this way, many demons they obtain benedictions from the demigods, but ultimately they don't last for a long time, and they are doomed to failure. So these are the important points in today's class. So I have another appointment, so I'm going ahead. With this, I conclude the class for the day. Any of you have got any questions, any comments that you can ask me?
Hare Krishna, bro. Thank you for
Hare
a
Krishna,
wonderful
bro.
class. Hare Krishna, bro.
Thank you,
Thank you so
Prabhu.
much. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you, madam. Hare Krishna. Thank you all very much. Granthad Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.